Okay, so we're constantly trying to squeeze more productivity out of every, ticking second.
Hmm.
Maybe you're that person checking email in the express checkout line. Or maybe you're listening to this deep dive at double speed while loading the dishwasher. We just run ourselves ragged trying to be more efficient.
It feels relentless, doesn't it? Always trying to do more with less time.
Exactly. But if you feel like you're just, well, running harder and getting nowhere, there's actually a massive reason why. It kind of boils down to this quote from the sculptor Constantine Brancusi. Things are not difficult to make. What is difficult is putting ourselves in the state of mind to make them.
That really shifts the focus. Not the doing, but the being ready to do.
Precisely. That quote flips the script entirely. Our source material for this deep dive, it really shows why traditional time management is fundamentally failing us, especially now in this economy. And it introduces a radically different approach, honestly a necessary one, mind management.
Yeah, and to really get why managing time feels like such a losing battle these days, like squeezing blood from a stone, we have to look back. Our whole obsession with time management, it's basically 110 years old. It comes from Frederick Taylor and his scientific management, Taylorism.
Ah, Taylor, the
Hmm.
stopwatch guy, the factory floor efficiency expert.
That's the one. Taylor was absolutely obsessed with optimizing physical labor. He literally stood there with the stopwatch at Bethlehem Steel, timing workers doing things like, picking up chunks of iron by figuring out the most efficient physical motions, breaking it all down. He could sometimes quadruple output. It was revolutionary for the industrial age.
Okay, revolutionary then.
Mm.
For industrial work, that seems key, right?
Yeah.
So if Taylorism worked so well back then, why are we still kind of wrestling with its legacy today? Why did it take over white-collar work too?
Well, because that whole industrial approach left us with these two, I'd say, toxic assumptions that are deeply ingrained. First, it hammered home this false idea that time is just a production unit. It made us believe all 24 hours are basically interchangeable commodities, like 8 a.m. has the same potential as 3 p.m.
Which is obviously not true if you've ever tried to do something really demanding right after lunch.
Yeah.
That slump is real.
Totally real. And the second big flaw is this idea that productivity is only about maximizing the quantity of stuff you produce in the shortest amount of time. Now, Taylor, to give him credit, he knew workers needed mandated rest or they'd just collapse. But somewhere along the line, in our modern offices, we kept the stopwatch part and mostly forgot about the crucial need for rest, especially cognitive recovery.
We just dove headfirst into what the sources call time worship, and you see it everywhere, like those slightly absurd examples. The exit strategy app in New York telling you exactly which subway car saves you, 45 seconds exiting?
Mhm.
Or we multitask like crazy, checking email while brushing teeth, treating every moment of waiting like some kind of personal failure of optimization.
And this constant pressure, this obsession, has real costs, both for our health and just, well, our collective sanity. You see it in little things, like the incivility of a waiter slamming down the check before you're even done eating, but also in much bigger things, like the fact that 30% of working Americans are getting less than 6 hours of sleep now. Chronic sleep deprivation, it just tanks our cognitive abilities, especially creativity. Plus, it ramps up the risk of serious long-term health issues. We're trading quality of life for these tiny time games that probably don't even matter that much in the grand scheme.
So, okay, we're running ourselves ragged, trying to optimize time, but maybe time isn't even the right thing to be optimizing anymore. Why does this distinction, managing time versus managing the mind, why does it matter so much now? Why is this the moment for this shift?
It's the moment because of, well, the rise of genuine machine intelligence,
Yeah.
AI. We are definitely entering what people are calling the creative age. And AI and automation, they're rapidly coming for exactly the kind of optimization-based jobs Taylorism trained us for.
You mean the jobs that are mostly about following a set of predictable, repeatable steps?
Exactly that. Think about tasks involving sorting data, applying rules, analyzing known patterns,
Mm.
things like loan underwriting, a lot of customer service roles, even some aspects of radiology reading. Basically, if the core of the job is optimization, a machine will likely do it cheaper and faster eventually.
So the safe ground is pure creativity.
Pretty much. The jobs that seem most secure are those requiring genuine creativity, which the sources define, scientifically, I guess, as coming up with something that's both novel and useful. And that means working in less structured ways, connecting ideas from different fields, generating insights. That stuff machines, at least high-level machines, still really struggle with.
Wow, okay. That totally shifts the goalposts for productivity, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not about typing faster or cramming more meetings in. It's more like creating the right conditions in your mind for valuable thoughts to actually show up, like tending the soil so a seed can grow, instead of just yelling at the seed to grow faster.
That's a great analogy. And the impact isn't linear either. You could spend, say, 1 hour working and come up with an idea that solves $1 million problem, or you could spend that same hour on an idea that's instantly forgotten. The difference isn't the minutes spent, it's the quality of the thinking happening during those minutes.
Right. The outcome can be wildly different for the same amount of time invested.
And that realization, that was the big breakthrough for the author of this material we're drawing on. When he got his first book deal, he tried the old time management way. 12 hours a day, chained to the keyboard, just forcing it. Agony. And not very productive.
So what changed? What broke that cycle for him?
It wasn't about finding more time. It was about changing his mental scenery, his state of mind. He was on a trip, I think it was Costa Rica, and he stopped forcing the writing. He was just, having a relaxed chat with someone on a gravel road looking out at the ocean, and suddenly, boom, everything clicked. The ideas just flowed. He realized progress wasn't bottlenecked by the amount of time he had, but by whether he was in the right state of mind for the specific work needed at that moment.
Okay, the right state of mind. Let's unpack that.
Yeah.
Starting with that myth we busted earlier, the idea that all hours are equal. It feels like it's about the clock, an external thing, but it's really internal, biological, right?
Right, absolutely. Our sources highlight these two internal systems we all have working together, or sometimes against each other. First, you've got the circadian system. That's your natural alertness cycle, generally climbing through the morning. Second, there's the sleep debt system. Basically, the longer you're awake, the more this invisible debt builds up, sapping your energy.
And when those two lines cross on the graph, crash.
Exactly. That crossover point is pretty predictable for most people. It hits around 2:30 in the afternoon. That's the infamous 2:30 feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing about that predictable dip is like step one in mind management. If we accept our energy fluctuates, we can stop trying to force, say, super high-level creative work when we're naturally at a low ebb.
So it's about matching the tasks to the energy you actually have available. And creative work, you mentioned, isn't just one thing. It needs two different kinds of thinking.
That's right. Divergent and convergent thinking. Think of divergent thinking as like a shotgun spray. It's about generating lots of ideas, making connections, exploring possibilities, finding novelty. It's broad. Convergent thinking is more like a sniper shot. It's about narrowing down those options, focusing, executing a plan, checking details, making sure the end result is actually useful. It's deep.
Okay, divergent and convergent. Got it. Now here's where it gets kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? The idea that for the divergent part, the idea generation, you might actually want your brain to be less alert.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds weird, but it makes sense biologically. We have this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex. You can think of it as the brain CEO or maybe the inner editor, the self-censor. It's great at prioritizing, focusing, suppressing weird urges or tangential thoughts. For convergent work, like finalizing details, you need that CEO fully engaged, sharp.
But for divergent thinking, for those new, unexpected connections, you need the CEO to maybe step out for a coffee.
Precisely. You need what the source calls the gift of grogginess. Studies actually show people are often more creative when they're mildly sleep-deprived or in that sort of hazy state right after waking up. When that inner editor, the prefrontal cortex, is less dominant, your brain is temporarily less filtered. It allows those weaker, less obvious connections between ideas, the thin wires, to actually light up.
Huh. That's a huge mental shift.
Yeah.
So, does this mean I should ditch my morning coffee and schedule my big brainstorms for 4:30 p.m.?
Maybe not ditch the coffee entirely, but yeah, you should absolutely think about scheduling the right kind of work for the right mental state. If you know that 2:30 dip is coming, don't schedule writing the final draft of a crucial report then. Maybe schedule a brainstorming session or just go for a walk. Let that inner editor chill out a bit.
Right, leverage the grogginess instead of fighting it. And the key to putting this into practice, the sources say, is protecting your prime creative time, your creative sweet spot.
Which brings us to a really practical tool.
Yeah.
First hour rule.
Simple but powerful. Yeah, the idea is just start your workday with your most important creative task. Do it first, before the day's chaos inevitably intrudes. It's like booking an early morning flight, right? Fewer chances for delays, cancellations, fewer emails, meetings, crises to derail you. That first hour becomes your protected cognitive window for deep creative work.
Okay, so that's managing energy within the day. But creative progress isn't just day to day, it's longer term.
Yeah.
And it isn't linear either. The sources talk about these 4 stages: preparation, incubation, illumination, and verification.
And we all love the illumination stage, the eureka
Of
moment.
course. But the real magic, often overlooked, happens during incubation. That's the time you spend apparently doing nothing on the problem, but it pays huge creative dividends later. It's when your brain shifts information from short-term working memory into long-term storage. It starts clearing out weak ideas and strengthening the more promising, novel connections. Your subconscious is basically working in the background.
I love the analogy in the source material, that incubation isn't wasted time. It's time you save, like a financial nest egg that's quietly earning interest while you're focused elsewhere. And you see super successful people doing this deliberately. Bill Gates had his think weeks off in a cabin. Google had its famous 20% time for engineers to just tinker.
Exactly. Structured incubation.
But okay, I'm not Bill Gates. I don't have a secluded cabin.
Sure.
How do I build in that valuable incubation time practically? How do I fight that feeling of needing to be on and productive every single minute?
You build in structured breaks and, crucially, low-stakes, low-cognitive load activities. The key is that incubation doesn't mean staring blankly at a wall for hours. It often works best when you engage your body or senses in something relatively mindless, going for a walk, washing dishes, commuting, taking a shower. You keep the problem simmering on the back burner of your mind, but you deliberately stop actively working on it. You let your passive genius, as the source calls it, take over.
Ah, passive genius.
Yeah.
I like that. And that idea connects directly to the next practical tool, right? The essential building block for making incubation actually work. The minimum creative dose, or MCD.
Yes, the MCD, it's basically the smallest, least intimidating action you can take on a project that still moves it forward, even just a tiny bit. Its main purpose is to save your active mental energy and leverage that passive genius during the incubation periods that follow. If you're stuck or overwhelmed, the MCD just lowers the barrier to getting started. Often it just plants an open loop in your subconscious.
The examples given are great because they really push back against our usual hyper-optimization habits. Like, instead of trying to learn Spanish by watching tons of different movies, which demands constant focus and context switching, the MCD approach is watching the same 20 minutes of one movie over and over. Your passive brain starts picking up the patterns and connections without you needing to exert massive effort.
Yeah, another great example. You're facing a huge task, like write 50-page report. Overwhelming, right? The MCD version is just spend 5 minutes drafting intro. That's it. It's almost impossible to fail at just 5 minutes. And often, just starting, even that tiny bit, builds enough momentum to keep going, or at least plants the seed for your passive genius to work on later.
And maybe the most famous example of using something like an MCD to protect that fragile divergent state, Paul McCartney in Yesterday. When he first dreamt the melody, he didn't immediately switch his brain into convergent, high-effort, find the perfect lyrics mode. He'd have killed the fragile new idea.
Right. He used those nonsense placeholder lyrics. Scrambled eggs, oh my baby, how I love your legs. Just to hold the melody, keep it in that generative state. He planted the seed, kept the divergent energy flowing, and let the real lyrics incubate. Trying to polish too soon would have shut down the creative process. The MCD helps keep easy work easy and avoids that costly mental tax of switching modes too often.
So if we pull all this together, the fluctuating energy, the different thinking modes, incubation, the MCD, the ultimate goal is a new way of organizing our work, moving beyond just listing tasks under projects, which is kind of rigid, and instead organizing tasks by the mental state they require.
Exactly. The source material identifies 7 key mental states for creative work. Prioritize, explore, research, generate, polish, administrate, and recharge. They use the mnemonic PURGE, PER, golf, PRR. Prioritize, explore, research. Then generate, polish, administrate, recharge. Yeah, that's it. The genius here is you tag every task not just by its deadline, but by the type and level of mental energy it demands.
Okay, walk us through that. What does that look like day to day? How would I actually use this tagging system?
So let's say you have a task like draft the new budget proposal. That requires fresh ideas, putting things together. You tag that generate. Then you have answer emails and book doctor appointment. That's routine stuff. Tag it administrate. Maybe read those industry reports. That's taking in information. Tag it research.
Got it. So when I sit down to work, instead of just looking at a daunting list of project deadlines that maybe all feel like they need my peak energy, I first check in with myself. How am I actually feeling right now? What's my current energy level, my mental state?
Exactly. That's the core of it. The whole purpose is to minimize the friction, the energy cost, of switching between tasks that require different mental gears. If you've had a rough morning, maybe dealing with a family issue, or you're just feeling drained, grieving perhaps, you don't try to force yourself into a high energy generate state. That's just going to lead to frustration. Instead, you filter your task list for things tagged with low effort states that match how you feel right now. Maybe explore some ideas loosely, do some research, clear out some administrative tasks. The point is, you always have something meaningful you can accomplish, something that fits your current capacity, regardless of the chaos life throws at you.
Wow, that feels like such a fundamental shift. We started this deep dive talking about how traditional time management is this rigid, industrial age hangover obsessed with optimization. And we're ending with this idea that real productivity, especially creative productivity, is about respecting your natural mental energy, finding the right state for the task, and building what the sources call anti-fragile systems.
Mhm.
Systems that don't just survive chaos and crises, but can actually get stronger because of them.
That really is the ultimate lesson one the author learned through real-life chaos, visa problems, bed bugs, family tragedies, you name it. The lesson is, things don't go as planned. That is the plan. A truly great creative system doesn't pretend chaos won't happen. It builds in slack, flexibility, freedom. It's the absolute opposite of time worship. It actually allows you to engage with the messy reality of life without completely derailing your important work.
So the real goal isn't just getting more done. It's designing a way of working, maybe a way of living, where you can consistently create and make progress on what matters, even when life feels overwhelming. You can't control the next crisis, maybe. But if you organize your work by mental state, you ensure your most important projects, your big rocks, keep moving forward, pebble by pebble, regardless of your energy on any given day.
Perfectly put. And maybe the challenge to leave you with is this. Take a look at your schedule for the next week. Pinpoint that time, probably around 2:30 or 3 in the afternoon, when you know your energy naturally dips. Now think about a task you have that requires high divergent thinking brainstorming, coming up with new angles, connecting unrelated things. How could you intentionally schedule that task or structure your environment during that dip to actually embrace that lower alert state? How can you invite the gift of grogginess?